Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Europa Rediviva. Today, I'd like to speak about the topic of social engineering. Who does it, why, and for whose benefit? So, today is the official start of some, you might call it festival in Romania. It's a sort of corporate event. So, corporations sponsor this youth activity with various stages of pop music, and in turn they receive the permission to organize some stands there. Stands where they do product placement. They do even more than product placement. They do product experience. So they somehow try to engineer a lifestyle, to market a lifestyle to the young people going there, to the teenagers. And the state has nothing to rival this. So if in various countries, which we consider to be on the axis of evil, and if also in the past, Romania, under its brutal communist dictatorship, would organize youth events that had the purpose to perpetuate the regime, to perpetuate the state, to perpetuate the established order, the corporations do the same thing now to perpetuate their vision, their lifestyle, their established order, and to make sure that the young generations never even dream of contesting corporate power. So the Romanian state has chosen to essentially thin itself out, to try to excuse its existence and to try to make itself as invisible as possible, while at the same time allowing corporations the full access to Romania's young people in order to engineer their brains into pursuing a certain lifestyle in the future once they grow up. So to pursue consumerism as a form of identity and as a desire for producing happiness and well-being. So the consumption of branded products solves the equation of happiness for the young people of Romania, and this is what should happen all the way into adulthood as well. So basically the corporations are shaping the next class of consumers that want to work for the corporations, that consider it prestigious to work for the corporations, and then that consider it prestigious to do conspicuous consumption, to buy the products of said corporations in order to show self-worth. So self-worth is instilled in these young people to be derived from fashionable branded products, and they grow up into being adults who are one step away from depression, one missed product launch away from depression. So they perpetually cure their angst and their ennui, is it called? So their sense of purposelessness by churning in these branded products that corporations churn out, and trying to be rats on the treadmill so as to make the money for purchasing these products. The corporations sell this dream, this vision of happiness and of fulfillment, which maximizes their own return every step of the way. In those 8 to 12 hours a day that the employee is working, it maximizes their return through the fact that they receive the surplus value of the employee's labor, and the employee's free time is also occupied by purchasing back what he received through his salary, using his salary to purchase back the products of the said corporations. The said corporations, which are owned by the investment funds, which are owned by the financial oligarchy of the West. So the Romanian state, being completely captured by the servants of the international financial capital, does not do any more social engineering regarding its youth. It no longer tries to instill, and it no longer considers it appropriate to instill any kind of vision that perpetuates the state, that perpetuates the Romanian people, that perpetuates Romanian society, that advances some sort of Romanian culture, that instills some sort of Romanian values into young people, Romanian traditional values. The Romanian state being captured by these servants of the international financial elite does not preoccupy itself with this problem anymore, because it does not consider it necessary. These people are just the servants of the international financial oligarchy, and they want to dismantle the state, because the state is a suboptimal vehicle for their needs. They want a docile citizenry, previous citizenry, now just indentured laborers, if possible, without any labor code to defend their rights, and a class of brainwashed zombies who believe that purchasing whatever products these corporations churn out is what makes them human, is what makes them happy, is what gives them identity. And it is what keeps them away from being depressed, because then they move into the assembly line of the pharmaceutical industry, and they cater to the American corporations in other roles. And this meditation was occasioned by a friend of mine sending me some propaganda song from the 1980s that Romanian youth used to sing on stadiums. It was a manifestation called Flacăra, so the flame. It was similar to what they had in the German Democratic Republic, Oktoberklub. So they would get together and sing folk songs, patriotic folk songs, also legitimizing the regime, praising the achievements of the working class, and so on. And those songs were patriotic. Of course, they were also socialist, so they also advanced the leader, the party, the established order, but also the country, the people, and the culture. And this no longer exists. Not only that this no longer exists, nothing similar exists, and the Romanian state does nothing to perpetuate itself in the future generations, in the minds of the future generations, to legitimize itself in the minds of the future generations, to instill in them the idea that there is something to defend, that they're not just headless chickens running around this corporate world, and that there is a culture, a legacy that needs to be passed on. This whole idea is even considered radical and revolutionary, and if you try to advance it in Romania, you will very quickly be labeled a Putin puppet, because this is what authoritarian regimes do. Only authoritarian regimes promote their culture, and not the culture of their corporations, not the corporate culture, not the culture of the corporations that occupy the marketplace in those countries. So, my point is that whoever does the social engineering gains access to the young brains, who are adults under development, and will have them defend their interests further down the line. So the children who go to these festivals, to these corporate experience festivals and brand experience festivals, in 10 years from now, who do you think they will defend? Will they defend the state, or will they defend the corporate interests? My take is that they will defend the corporate interests, and they will fight hard to keep in power those servants of the corporate elite, to perpetuate the objectives of the foreign corporations active in Romania, and so on. And their societal vision is that of the brands. The brands are something of value, or something aspirational, whereas Romanian culture is something that can be easily discarded, is something that is not promoted, and that has essentially no value. And this is the type of citizenry that Romania is allowing corporations to create, and we already see the political effects of this. So I've said about the decline of the educational system. Young people nowadays cannot think in these terms that I am in the terms in which I am describing the problem. Cannot think in terms of a society. They are just atomized individuals catering to their own consumer needs. They see themselves as consumers, and their favorite public space is the mall. It's not really a public space, but they much rather prefer being in shopping malls than in cultural establishments or in parks, in venues of public use. And this is the result of social engineering. It's not like, of course, people in Romania would say that this is a conspiracy theory, that I'm being a conspiracist, and that this is just the result of freedom, you know. When America bombs third world countries and the American mainstream media tells their audience that America is bringing freedom and democracy, well, there is actually a people in this world that believes this. So maybe the people of Kosovo, because I've seen that they have really nice songs praising Bill Clinton and praising the Americans and so on, and the Romanians. The Romanians somehow believe that until 1989 they were oppressed, and then came freedom, and freedom was Coca-Cola, McDonald's, the shopping mall, freedom to create your identity, to explore your identity, to develop your identity along these corporate coordinates, and to wear branded clothing. It went to such an extent, this type of mental retardation went to such lengths that in the previous electoral campaign, the so-called pro-European forces organized a meeting in Timișoara, this westernmost Romanian city where the so-called revolution of 1989 started. And one of the speakers there from the pro-European march addressed the audience by saying, "We want bananas, we want blue jeans, and the sovereigntists are going to take them away from us." The logic being that branded clothing in general, or imported merchandise, even exotic fruits and vegetables, would be inaccessible in case Romania would decide to pursue a national path, because Romania would isolate itself. It would become like what North Korea used to be, or like what Cuba is now under blockade. And so trying to be the least patriotic, trying to be a little bit thinking of your national interest, is essential to inviting a US blockade and perhaps even US intervention, a US color revolution, perhaps even bombardments. I'm sure these people would, just like the Iranian Pahlavi supporters from the Iranian diaspora, would gladly support military strikes against the sovereigntist Romanian government. And these strikes are not without civilian casualties, so they would advocate for bombing their own people if their own people decided to vote according to their national interest and to preserve their national sovereignty. This is the level of brainwashing and delusion that we have come to. And probably for foreign audiences, this sounds like hyperbole. This sounds like a bit too much. But for example, somebody asked me in the comments about this terrorist organization active in Romania that made this blacklist on which I also appear, and which essentially threatens to kill domestic dissenters, this being the reason why I moved abroad. It just so happens that this terrorist organization that operates out in the open is supported not only by NGOs, by the corporate media, by the usual suspects that you might expect in such a situation. It is also supported by various state organizations, including by the University of Bucharest, for example. Various faculties of the University of Bucharest, the Faculty of Mathematics, the Faculty of Philosophy, the Faculty of Political Science, the Faculty of History. Several faculties of the University of Bucharest have invited the initiators of the terrorist organization who organized this assassination website in Romania and who threatened to kill any kind of dissent, the University of Bucharest invited these people to speak to students, and the Faculty of Philosophy went so far as to invite one of the initiators of this terrorist group in its podcast, in its critical thinking podcast. So the Faculty of Philosophy of the University of Bucharest does this regular podcasts on the topic of critical thinking. They claim that they are advancing critical thinking. And how are they doing that? They consider that there is a sovereigntist threat in society, that people get sovereigntist ideas, which is very bad. So they bring in speakers who are the total opposite. So they bring in essentially all the influencers of the regime. And so that they disparage the sovereigntist movement, so that they label essentially everybody who wants a national direction in the Romanian politics to be a Putin agent and so on. And one of these people that they invited on their podcast is none other than this domestic terrorist, this guy who published on the website of a newspaper from his hometown a terrorist manifesto full with details of how they're going to operate once they start the political assassinations and everything. And the Faculty of Philosophy of the University of Bucharest, without any hesitation, invites this guy to promote him as an advocate for critical thinking. And this guy goes on this podcast of the Faculty of Philosophy and says things like, yeah, Romanians have fallen prey to disinformation because they do not believe that a war exists in Ukraine, and the interlocutor, the professor organizing this and offering this stage to this guy, to this terrorist, is also a high-ranking civil servant in the Romanian state. So he's also the pro-rector of the University of Bucharest, and he's also a presidential advisor in the Romanian presidential administration. This is the degree of degradation to which things have fallen. So essentially, if you are a student at the University of Bucharest, and if you have some sort of patriotic ideas, sovereigntist thoughts, you will encounter the following situation. First of all, your professors will, during the classes, even though it is illegal under the educational law of Romania, they will disparage your point of view, they will disparage the sovereigntist direction, and they will say it is a threat and so on. And they will try to essentially shame any student that thinks along these lines. The professors of the University of Bucharest have also published a manifesto, an electoral manifesto supporting the current president before he was elected in the second round, and they said that not voting for him, not voting for this direction of total servitude towards foreign corporate interests is akin to bringing back fascism and communism. I don't know why they thought that both would be brought back by the sovereigntist vote, but this is what they published. They published this manifesto in support of the current president and in support of his policies. And they have no red lines, so they have absolutely no hesitation in inviting domestic terrorists who try to operate some sort of Gladio operation on the territory of Romania to espouse their agenda. So the university essentially gives them credibility because these people, the founders of this terrorist organization, do not have higher education and they're not experts in anything. They do not have a professional background. One of them has done time in jail for credit card skimming in Sweden, and they're just I think they're high school graduates, but they don't have any kind of university studies, and they do not have any specialty profession, any kind of expertise, and they're invited just for their role, for being advocates for Ukraine, and also in this terrorist fashion. And the University of Bucharest has no qualms about inviting in a critical thinking podcast a self-styled political terrorist in operating on the territory of Romania. This is the sad state of affairs. This is why I had to leave, and yeah, you can imagine what the direction is. Since things are operating in this fashion, you can imagine that they are being prepared for something. They are being prepared for Romania to be used by Ukraine in the war against Russia. So at some point, some event will be engineered which will make conscription of Romanian men, and they will be sent off to fight in Ukraine. This is the end desired state by this normalization of this position that's completely subservient to the Ukrainian interests. So this is what I wanted to tell you today, pretty much. Be careful who's doing the social engineering in your country, and if it's not the state, I'm afraid that your country and your culture doesn't have a lot of time ahead of itself, so it will probably not last very long, and the citizenry will be turned in a few generations into it will be molded according to the interests of the people doing the social engineering. This is what I wanted to tell you today. If you like what I do, like, share, subscribe, join my Telegram channel for similar content, and until next time, take care. Bye.